been.
Where did you dig up that old fossil?
Going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
That's no move.
We're all fine here now, thank you. How are you?
Welcome to the Star Wars Nerds Podcast. I'm Dan Vadabonker.
I'm Kenton Larson.
And if I sound different, it's because I am back in studio. Listen to that. Listen to my voice. Listen to the crisp, clear sound of my voice as I talk into the microphone. I am back on campus at Red River College. Kenton is still at home. How are you doing, Kenton?
I'm doing well, and it's good to see you. And it's you're back. Welcome back from your
and
holidays.
You. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And you, as we said before, I see Dan in a square here, and they glued the computer down, so I just see Dan in the corner of my screen. But behind Dan, I see 4 empty chairs, like we're waiting for guests to show up or something.
Well, this is where the students are going to sit eventually when they ever come back here.
They're never coming back, but that's where they would. That's where they would sit.
Right.
What also occurs to me is another Star Wars podcast, the Star Wars Underworld, has started posting their podcast on YouTube.
Okay.
And one of the things I realized, and I watched it, I still like the audio podcast better because I can take it with me and everything.
Yeah, me too.
But one thing I noticed about that podcast, they're Canadian. I think they're all Canadian. One of the things I noticed is they're kids. They're kids, Dan. They're punks. They're little punks. And
you thought they were older?
Them very much. But it made me kind of go, well, should we be posting ours on YouTube? Should people be seeing this? Or what do you think?
I don't know if they should be seeing this specifically. We did do that for a while. Remember, we did our show, Media Nerds, on Shaw TV. So we do have videos. If you want to see what we look like in person, you can go to YouTube. And I don't remember if I'm sure they're still up on YouTube. If you search like Media Nerds, Shaw TV, you'll find it. So that's what it would look like if we were to put this up online. I don't know. Some people do listen to podcasts on YouTube. They just kind of put on YouTube while they're working and just let it play, and they don't look at it. I'm not one of those people. If I'm listening to something, it's usually on my phone or in my earbuds. If I'm listening to a podcast, I just kind of, that's the way I've gotten to the habit of doing it. So I don't know. I mean, let us know, listeners, if you would like to see our smiling faces while we're talking about Star Wars. I'm sure we can figure out a way to put this up and have people do that.
Well, I was just worried that the guys from the Star Wars Underworld podcast would watch ours and go, those guys are old. Like
they are.
Those are just kids. And then they go, look, those guys are like grandpa. That's grandpa over there telling stories about Star Wars. So it's funny. I there's a billion different formats for podcasts, but it was kind of fun to see people switching it up.
Yeah, and I've noticed another one of my favorite YouTubers. A lot of my favorite YouTubers are also doing podcasts. So one of them is the Cinemassacre podcast, which is the Angry Video Game Nerd, longtime YouTuber. He's been around forever, but they just started doing their podcast like last week. Again, and it is like the YouTube one is a 3-camera podcast. So they switch between like the people and go to the wide shot and do all that stuff. So I think there's a lot involved to doing it that way. I don't know if we could do it that way necessarily. That was what the Shaw TV stuff did. Billy did that for us for Shaw TV. I don't know if we could do that, but certainly we can figure something out.
When you start showing pictures, then I have to stop wearing these T-shirts. And you start worrying too much about like the visuals behind it. I remember that too, where it would be on Shaw TV, and I just go like, "Good Lord!" Like I understand why bald people wear baseball caps on TV. You know, like you're just like, does my head need to have that glare shining off it? Yeah. You start worrying about that stuff, and maybe it's better. It's better to just think in terms of audio, maybe.
Probably. I think, that's usually the way my mind goes. But there's been a lot of Star Wars stuff happening, of course. It's been a few weeks since we posted last. The Bad Batch did finish. We did have the 16th and final episode of The Bad Batch. We will talk about that, plus all the other stuff happening in the world of Star Wars. What do you want to start with today?
There is so much. Maybe we should start with The Bad Batch.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Ending and the fact it was renewed for season 2.
Right.
What did you think of the season?
It was fine. I have to tell you that I fell off of it. I was not watching it regularly, like when, like I would for the Mandalorian or another show or even the Marvel shows like Loki. I would actually watch it as soon as I could. But for this one, I would go days without seeing the new episode, and it didn't become as important. It was okay. I would just say okay, somewhat predictable, and I don't know if I'm going to watch the second season. I mean, it's interesting to me because of the big world building stuff they do, but I don't really care as much about the clones and about the Bad Batch themselves.
Yeah, and I sort of I agree with you on that. But I did keep up and watch it the day it was released, so that was a little different than you. But I mostly did that just in case. I always thought, what if Dan suddenly texts me and wants to do the podcast? And I was kind of like, I better just keep up with this just in case, because I don't want to be caught like flat-footed here and not be ready to discuss it. So I watched it as it was released.
I call a lot of crash podcasts. I do that all the time, right?
Well, once in a while, not that often. But I have a bit of a hot take on The Bad Batch, and I don't know, it just might be in my mind. But I thought and definitely the fact that I stuck with it says that it was fine. It was good. I didn't stick with Star Wars Rebels. I really couldn't make it to the end of that. Although I did watch key episodes of Rebels when I find out about what happened, and I watch them. But I watched every one of these, and to me, there seemed to be a shift in the story at a certain point, where at one point our whole focus was Omega, and there's something special about Omega. We're going to learn about Omega, and Boba Fett is Omega's brother. Oh my God, this is all going to come together by the end. And then suddenly it didn't matter much anymore. It became something else. And to me, what might have changed was they said, hey, we've been renewed for season 2. Save that stuff up.
Yep.
Save it up. Do something different and differently. And so I almost noted a transition at a certain point between what we were focusing on and then what season 1 ended up focusing on. I don't know. Is that just me?
No, I agree, because you're right. And remember, we talked about the fact, like, I thought that Omega has Force abilities, that she's able to use the Force, even though she might not realize it. She can read minds, kind of. She can kind of sense things, and she knows things about people. And yeah, they were dropping a lot of hints early on, and that did go away. And yeah, I do suspect that that's going to be a second season plot point. I don't think that's, I mean, maybe that was always the plan. Like, I don't know that, the creators of The Bad Batch are sitting there worrying that they're not going to get renewed for a second season. I think it's a Star Wars thing. Unless it completely bombs, they're going to do another season of it. They'll probably do like 3 or 4 seasons of this at least. So there is that. What else? I mean, I could tell you that the things I didn't like the villain, the bad guy, not Crosshair. That's a whole other thing. But the Imperial, I don't remember his name. The Imperial, he's just a Thrawn knockoff. That's all he is. It's just another guy supposed to be like Thrawn, and that wasn't not much of it. And the whole idea of destroying Kamino, like, again, like, we were at Kamino in the beginning. We went away, and then all of a sudden we're brought back to Kamino, and they destroy it. And this is it does feel like they started out doing something and they finished off doing something different, right? And I did feel like they shifted midway through. Yeah. I don't know if that was because they got renewed or because they just changed their minds. Maybe there was some other reason for it.
And you just reminded me, Tarkin vanished.
Tarkin vanished.
Tarkin was in there. He was the bad guy, and that's like the best bad guy you could possibly have. That's a great guy to be in there, but he kind of vanished.
And then the other guy, the Crosshairs guy, that started out being, okay, Crosshairs still has this chip in, so that's why he's evil. And then it turns out, as we go along, and I don't think it ever was said when exactly he gets his chip removed, but he does get his chip removed. I don't know how he went about doing that. It's like, hey boss, can I get my chip removed out of my head? Like, how do you make that request from Human Resources? So
you fill out a requisition.
But he gets his chip removed, but he still is evil. Like, he still wants to work for the Empire. So that the chips really don't matter, apparently, is what I'm learning about this.
I liked that turn of events. That was I thought one of the better storytelling parts of the, no, you don't understand. I already have my chip out. Like, that's good. That's like a classic, like, oh, we thought one thing, but you did a switcheroo. It makes sense. And now it raises a whole bunch of questions. So I thought that was good. I like that. Okay. I thought that was a really, really good storytelling. But for everything like that, there would be something like, Omega releasing all the droids for the Bad Batch to fight.
Yeah,
it was never a threat. No one at the Bad Batch died, including the bad member of the Bad Batch, the Bad Batch guy, Crosshair. I almost always call him Cross Eyes. No, Crosshair. I also wondered about, we're gonna just leave him standing on a platform in Kamino, surrounded by water.
Yeah.
Bye.
See you later.
They take off. It's like, now what is he supposed to do? Like, wouldn't there have been some discussion about, look, you're stuck on this platform. Just come with us. Come on. I thought that's more likely how it would have gone than.
We'll give you a ride to Ort Mantell.
Right.
there are aspects of the show that definitely play to the kids, right? And that the whole, obviously Omega's part of that. At the end there, they have Omega save him. And then he saves Omega, so he has some redemption. He's not all evil. He will save a child from death, I guess. But yeah, so I guess, and it's all setting this stuff up for season 2. I don't know if, again, as I say, I don't know if I'm going to really watch season 2 as much as I thought I would. I would like to just know what's happening as far as like the Empire. I read one piece that said that the Empire, what the show is about, is showing that the Empire didn't just happen overnight. And I'm like, yeah, that's what it is showing. It is showing that the Empire happened overnight, because that's what it seems like. It seems like they snapped their fingers and boom, there's the Empire. And so, and we don't know the time frame of this season. Maybe it happened over the course of months or years. I don't think it was years, certainly maybe months. But we got to see like the new stormtroopers come in with our stupid helmets. Is that the first time we saw that design of stormtrooper helmet? That's got to be the worst one.
Which one?
The one, the new recruits. Like they showed the soldiers who were not clone troopers. They were stormtroopers. They called them, what did they call them?
TK.
They call them TK troopers, right? TK, send them to why trade your post, right? That's what they call them. So there's a bit of what's it called? Retroactive stuff there. But I thought the helmets were just dumb. The helmets just look stupid. They're supposed to be a combination of stormtrooper helmets and like the other helmets that the rebels wear, I guess, or even the ones that the Death Star guys wear, but it just looks bad. I felt it looked bad. And
it's also, I also thought there might have been a logical flaw in going with recruits, in that, okay, we're saving money on all these clones, but if you capture Kamino and enslave the Kaminoans, which they did, then it wouldn't cost you any money. You could keep that cloning system going, although I imagine they could then program the clones to turn on them, on the captors or whatever, so maybe that's why. But I thought, we're going to go with bad, poorly functioning recruits.
So they made a point of like, they pointed that out several times, that the troops are not as good. Like going back to the old joke that stormtroopers can't hit anything, that's kind of where they're trying to show that it's always been that way since the beginning. And I don't know about the decision. Like they made it like a budgetary decision at the beginning, but you're right. It would not necessarily be a budgetary thing. Plus, think about like the reason they went with clones in the first place, going back to the prequel trilogy, is because it would save them time, right? The clones are like, boom, ready to go, and they can go to war immediately, as opposed to having to recruit and train, all these different people and that kind of stuff. I imagine that it is, but the fact is that the clones, like George Lucas kind of put them in this spot. The clones he created stormtroopers first, and then went back and created clones. And so now Lucasfilm has to explain how we get from clones to troopers. I don't really think it's a great explanation. I think we could have come up with something better than that.
Maybe, but also, once again, I go back to J.J. Abrams and like, look, they have chips in their head. JJ, they probably put chips in the recruits' heads too, and that's what Finn is running from, is the chip in his damn head. That's what it should have been all along.
Yeah, no, they make it in The Force Awakens, it's like Finn breaks his programming, right? That's kind of the idea. And
right.
That to me seems a little bit more plausible than a chip in your head. But they don't. I think the reason they say the reason they didn't want to do the chip in the head is because they didn't want somebody else pulling an Order 66 on them. I don't know. It's a tough situation. They came up with an explanation. It's probably not the best explanation, but it is what it is, and we have to kind of let it be, I guess. As the Beatles would say.
I don't even know that it needs a big explanation. You could have said the stormtroopers are clones too, and that would have been fine.
Right. Yeah, we never see a stormtrooper without their helmet on, although they seem like idiots. They do seem like idiots. So it's like, how do you make that connection between the clones are supposed to be these elite soldiers and stormtroopers are idiots? Like, they're always idiots.
Well, here's an idea. The Kaminoans could have sabotaged the clones at a certain point and made them inept.
And by the way, we get a teaser at the end of the episode about them taking the head Kaminoan cloning guy off somewhere. We presume that's to work on Snoke or the Emperor. Is that what that's to do? Is to work on the Emperor and then work on Snoke?
We saw a dude wearing the uniform that the guy in the Mandalorian wears, the doctor or whatever his name is. So yeah, I think we can take it that's sort of the beginning of the Empire's cloning program, its own cloning program. And probably where Snoke came from. And although why Snoke had to be a battle-damaged clone is beyond me. want that.
I don't know. I honestly, that's a whole other discussion for another episode. What was the reception online from the Bad Batch? Most people liked it.
It was a mix.
Yeah.
Like I sort of saw, there's some folks, the folks who loved the Clone Wars animated series loved it because really it was a continuation of that series.
Yeah, and that's what I'm reading an article here that says that it was too much like the Clone Wars to truly be great. This is from Polygon. It was like there was still too much of the Clone Wars hanging on to this series. But I guess it's a transitionary thing. It's like moving from, it basically is a transition from the prequels to the original films, right? So we need that to happen here.
But yeah, and I sort of like that. I don't mind that for the time period. That's fine. But I think I don't know I think people are kind of sort of up in the air about it at this point because they know season 2 is coming.
Yeah.
So I think there's a little bit of like, yeah, okay, that was a pretty good first season, and let's see what happens in season 2. And I think that's sort of, that's where I sort of fall on it too. Like, yeah, I'll keep watching it. I'll keep watching season 2 of this thing. I think they made me forget that they were like the Ninja Turtles and Rambo.
I did forget that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that went away.
Good.
Yeah. And I do like the individual characters somewhat. I think that, they're a little bit stereotypical, but they're still fun. It's going to be like, the hype is going to be gone now. It's going to be like Rebels where people are just going to watch it and not talk about it as much, because that's what happened with Rebels. And I suspect that's what's going to happen here, but we'll keep an eye on it. Obviously when it comes back, whenever it comes back, we'll talk about it. As far as the big picture things, I don't really want to discuss unless they do reveal that Omega is a Force user. And then maybe she becomes a Jedi or something. We'll never know. We will know, but
we will know in season 2 for sure.
Okay.
And Boba Fett will show up.
Okay. Oh, okay. That'll be fun.
You will. And of course, by then we will have seen the book of Boba Fett.
Right. And that's the next thing coming out.
Yeah. Now that they have that under their belt, I mean, they already know how that story begins and ends at this point. Given that the show debuts in December. We're not that far from that, actually.
No, sorry, I meant that's actually not the next thing coming up. The next thing coming up is Star Wars Visions.
Oh, yeah.
Which we got a trailer for this week.
We did.
You've been guided by the Force since you were born.
At last, the moment arrives.
It was a mix of emotions. It's cool. It's a cool idea, but I didn't know that it was all going to be anime. I thought it was going to be a bunch of different styles of animation, and this is really just a bunch of anime. It's going to be all anime, but it's from different studios and that kind of stuff. So it looks cool. There was a short a while ago that had this anime space battle. You remember it had like TIE fighters and different things like that. That looked really cool. So this has the potential to look really cool. But I was hoping for other types of animation as well. So maybe they'll expand that eventually. But for now, we're just going to get 9 episodes of basically Star Wars anime.
Yeah, I'm interested in the storylines based on the trailer because it looked interesting. It looks like we're reclaiming Greg Proops at the pod racing. It looks like we got a guy with a microphone. And I like that. I like that they have other events at the pod racing arena, so that's hilarious.
Well, it's got to be a whole day, right? That whole pod, what was it called? The Bunta Eve. Bunta Eve is like Christmas Eve, right? I
guess it is. And but then again, how can you tell when you have 2 suns? How does the calendar work? I mean, I don't even know. So who knows about that? And I liked there was like a cackling Sith Lord going hey, like it sounded like he was all giggling.
Yeah,
almost. I like that. I liked the very first story that they show in the trailer, which shows like the Jedi Knight gave us the lightsaber to protect the village or whatever. I was like, oh, that's great. That
felt like a samurai movie kind of thing. Like it's got that vibe to it, which is cool.
So I like the promise of the stories that they're telling there. I just, I dig it. I like seeing it. It doesn't have a major, to me, it's not like seeing a live action anything Star Wars, but I'm still interested.
And I don't think it is considered canon, so I think we can expect we won't expect like stories with the main characters. It'll be stuff on the fringes of Star Wars, not anything major. But it should still be good. I guess it's kind of like the What If of Star Wars, right? What If is the Marvel one, but it's not going to be alternate realities. It's just going to be stories happening in other places. So yeah, we'll see. It's in September. It's coming up in September, so coming up pretty soon. And then after that, we got the Book of Boba Fett coming up in December. So lots of Star Wars stuff coming up.
Absolutely. Hey, sign me up for all of it. And as long as we keep getting Star Wars stuff, we keep doing the podcast. So
of course. Good. And then we also may see in September the Mandalorian win several Emmys because it got quite a few Emmy nominations. Yeah,
it didn't set a record. I think it set a record.
Something like that.
For nominations. And what I can't believe is it's so rare that high quality Star Wars wins awards. It's rare. Like
it wins special effects.
In major categories.
Yeah, it wins special effects awards, but it doesn't really win much in the way of anything else. So what is it nominated for? It says 24 nominations in 19 categories.
I believe Apollo Creed has a nomination. However, not Pedro Pascal.
Huh.
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah, no kidding. Because he's like, why? Because you can't see his face? Is that what we're judging that on?
It's snobby Emmy voters saying, who even knows who's under that armor? Get lost. And my guess is season 3 of The Mandalorian will be Pedro Pascal's face from beginning to end.
It's going to be mostly because now that he's taken it off, he's going to take it off all the time. Yeah, for sure.
Yes. We will see him deliver a performance that we have not seen him deliver on that show yet, and I think that will probably tip the scale.
So it is nominated for Outstanding Drama Series. Why are they using outstanding? It's outstanding for everything. Outstanding. It's not best.
I guess that means they're all outstanding if they're nominated.
No, this one stands out from the rest of them. They're all good. You should watch them all, but this one stands out. Outstanding Drama Series, Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Drama Series by Giancarlo Esposito as Moff Gideon.
Yeah.
And then Outstanding Guest Actor for Timothy Olyphant as Corn Cob Pipe. And then Carl Weathers as Grief Karga. So lots of guest acting nominations.
Yeah.
And then Outstanding Writing for 2 episodes, chapter 13, The Jedi, and chapter 16, The Rescue. Chapter 16 would be the final episode with Luke, right? Is that the episode that Luke shows up?
The Jedi?
No, is the Jedi? No, the Jedi is a different one.
Is it?
16 was the finale. 16 was the.
Oh, you're right.
So I can't remember what the Jedi was about, but anyway, those are the 2 episodes.
Oh, Ahsoka.
Oh, that's right. Yes, of course. That was a great episode. Yeah, that was a really good episode. So there you go. So those should, hopefully it wins something. I'd like to see it nominated. I probably won't watch the Emmys, but.
No, I always record it and I fast forward through it. And that way if something catches my eye or it looks like, or usually if you play catch up as soon as they end, then by then you'll hear what everybody's talking about and you can stop there to watch the speech or.
Apparently there's an Emmy for Outstanding Casting for a drama series. They give the casting director an Emmy. And then, of course, all the different special visual effects, cinematography, stunt coordination. There you go. So Ryan Watson, I don't know if he's a stuntman, but the stuntman for Pedro Pascal got an Emmy nomination, not him himself.
Nominations for everyone but the lead actor.
Right. No, there's a lot. There's a lot of different, and there's a lot of different, like, there's a makeup, there's sound editing, there's visual effects, there's other, like, there's outstanding period and or character hairstyling. That's interesting. Outstanding fantasy or sci-fi costumes. Like, these are very specific Emmy categories.
Yes, very specific. A lot of that probably won't even be aired.
Oh, I'm sure it won't. No. They'll just air the main stuff. But I mean, when we talk about it being nominated for a record number of nominations, look at what it's being nominated for. The reason why Star Wars was never nominated for this stuff because it didn't exist back then. They didn't have. I think they've recognized that this kind of stuff is important in TV and streaming. So that's why they're nominating it. So
speaking of Mando, we should probably mention that next week is the making of the last episode of The Mandalorian on Disney Plus. Where they show they are going to give us a short documentary with Mark Hamill on the set of The Mandalorian, dressed like Jedi Luke.
Yeah.
Which we weren't even aware that he had done, but they released a still frame from the episode. So yeah, there he is. We're going to get to see Mark Hamill behind the scenes shooting his appearance in the last episode of The Mandalorian. So
Makes me feel better to know that he was actually there. It really does, because I thought they'd done what they'd done with Tarkin in Rogue One, where they just took a stand-in and then just put his face on. Like that makes it feel more real to me, because it did take me out of it. The CGI was a bit, uncanny valley, so it did take me out of it a little bit. But knowing that he was there, I'll rewatch that and I'll be more in the scene because he's actually there.
Well, it did not take me out of it. I was too giddy to see Luke. I was crying. I was cheering and crying and whatever, jumping up and down. I was too excited to let that bother me. So I'm dying to see this making of. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
That's next Wednesday, I think that's released, okay. And I'm going to watch it that day, and we'll talk about it on this podcast. But I'm looking forward to it. Anything with Mark Hamill and Star Wars, and who knows? I'm hoping that season 3 of The Mandalorian gives us some more Luke Skywalker, but that's not definitely not a guarantee. And in fact, if I were to bet, I would say no. I'd say probably Mark Hamill will not be in season 3 of The Mandalorian.
Well, yeah, it's just. How will they go without Grogu then? Will Baby Yoda not be in it? Right? Like, how do they answer that question? Because people are going to want Baby Yoda. What
I imagine them doing is we will see the Mando in his. So there'll be a time jump.
Oh, okay.
We'll see him in his whatever his new spacecraft is. Maybe he's rebuilt the old one that got blown up. Who knows?
No, he'll have it'll be 2. It'll be number 2. Whatever his what was the name of it again? The spaceship.
The Razor Crest.
It'll be the Razor Crest 2, just like Slave 1.
I think it probably will be. And what I would do is I would just just have Baby Grogu just show up, be right there, and you'd be like, "What's he doing? Where have they all been over this time?" And we don't know until we see until Baby Grogu knocks out some of that Luke Skywalker training.
Right, and so he's gonna so he'll come back all trained up and maybe even talking. Maybe even saying words. Who knows? Oh,
I think we'll get our Simpsons episode where he says one word.
Okay.
Remember when the baby on the Simpsons said a single word in that one episode? It was Elizabeth Taylor. So I think we'll get our moment where Grogu says something. That's my prediction.
He'll say "Dada."
Oh my God, that would be a heart-wrenching scene.
No, but
that's a great idea. Happy. So I also wanted to note I bought my first Star Wars toy in quite a while, and it was a 3.5-inch retro Mandalorian figure. So it looks like the old school Star Wars figures, like the old school Boba Fett action figure, except it's Mando. And I was like, why do I want this figure so bad? And I realized they hit the perfect spot between retro fan of the old school Star Wars figures and the new franchise, right in the middle of that target perfectly. And so I bought it from GameStop, and the guy at GameStop was like, "We can't keep these in stock." It's amazing that you even found this one.
I saw them I did see them at Walmart, I think the first week they were out, and I haven't been back to check to see if they were there again. And it's about 3.5-inch, right? So cheaper than the Black Series, the 6-inch.
Oh, it was still $20.
Okay, $20. That's a little pricey for 3.5.
Yeah.
How much is? Isn't that usually what Black Series are? Like the 6.5?
Not anymore.
Okay.
Now they're $40 to $50 sometimes.
Yikes. And are you keeping it in? It's not in a box though. It's on a card, right? It's like
a card, right?
Old school packaging.
And the card was already a little bit. Actually, I'm not going to say warped. Makes it sound like it was destroyed, but no, it's just got a little curve in the back of the cardboard. Mm-hmm. So it's not. I wouldn't call it mint condition, but that doesn't really matter to me. I don't care about that stuff.
No, I know, but I think that's part of the nostalgia. Like that packaging really makes it look a lot like the packaging of the toys when we were kids, right? So that's part of the reason why it appealed to you.
Well, and even the packaging has fake bends in it, has fake cardboard, whatever, to make it look
a fake Kenner logo too, because Kenner doesn't exist anymore.
Exactly. So it's all it's everything you want. And also the toy that stirred up the internet for a couple of weeks was the Hot Toys Luke Skywalker from The Mandalorian. Comes with Baby Grogu. Oh my God, $300 plus. And oh my God. But I saw Steele Saunders, I think he tweeted that he might have to part with his money on this particular item.
Really?
And I looked at it, and then I vowed to never look at it again because I felt the same way. I was like, I'm going to buy that son of a bitch. I'm going to put my credit card in. I'm going to buy. And then I remember when they had those Star Wars battles, like in battle pose Star Wars figures.
Yeah.
And I have Jedi Luke in that series of figures. So I sort of have that figure already.
So you just take Grogu from your other figure, your other Grogu from a thing, and just put him in his arms, and you got it. You're just recreating. No, don't do it.
I'm not going to buy it, but holy, do I love it.
One thing I want to note for future episodes is I've noticed, now we briefly talked about the Hoth Planet game, Planet Hoth game or whatever it was, Empire Strikes Back board game. There's a Death Star, Escape from the Death Star game as well that I want to try. So I'm going to get those games, and maybe we'll play them on the podcast when we can actually get back together in person. It just looks like a lot of fun, and it's kind of silly. The figures that come with it, like the Death Star one comes with a Tarkin, and it just looks like kind of cheap and not very well made, but yeah, it's all in good fun, right? So it's interesting that they're doing that. I have found, I should mention that I found a few more copies of the original trilogy on VHS. So what happened was, I got the ones that I got, which is, again, has the half face on the cover, right? That version of it. And then I saw another one that was just the original Star Wars, so not the completely original version. And then I saw the other trilogy with the faces in a box. It actually came, the ones I had were just loose tapes. So then I found it in an actual trilogy box. So the three of them together in a trilogy box. It's only $3, whatever. I bought it. Another. So now I own 2 copies of that same trilogy on VHS. I still have not purchased, I do have the original trilogy on Blu-ray, but I've not purchased any prequel films yet, even though I have seen a few, because I'm waiting to see if I can get a better version of it or something like that. The prequels I am coming across some prequel movies, not a ton of Star Wars movies in general at thrift stores, but what I do notice about thrift stores is they really like to hike up the pricing on any Star Wars merch that they found. If you go to a thrift store and you look in the glass case, this is where like they'll put anything that's been donated that turns out to be valuable. So you see like lots of Star Wars memorabilia in the glass case. I saw, and I didn't buy it. I should have bought it, and then when I went back, it was gone. I saw a copy of the Ewok Adventure, which is now known as Caravan of Courage, but it was called the Ewok Adventure. The tape showed that it was called the Ewok Adventure, and it was a VHS tape of that movie, of that made-for-TV movie. It was $10 they wanted for it. I'm like, $10 for a VHS tape? I don't know if I'm going to ever watch it. I can watch it on Disney Plus if I want to. So I didn't buy it, and then it was gone the next day. But so the people are paying those prices for that kind of stuff, which is really interesting to me.
Wow, that's very cool. I'm enjoying your TikToks showing you on your movie crawls, trying to digging through big bins at Walmart.
People like that.
Etc.
It's the random pick. I don't know. The Walmart thing is I just stick my hand in there and buy the rules. I have to buy the first movie I pick. It's only $5, and so I've purchased. Based on that, I've purchased a Fast and Furious movie, which I would never ever buy in real life, and Rambo: Last Blood, which I got the other day, and I've not watched. I will watch these eventually, but I'm not looking forward to it. But I did also get Bone Tomahawk. I
love that movie.
Which is apparently really good. I've never seen it, but
it's wonderful.
Yeah, it's a give or take, right? Sometimes you get. I also got Casablanca one time. So people like the randomness of it. They like to see what I get. So that's been a funny thing. But I am enjoying going that. Star Wars stuff is difficult to find. It's not a lot of people sell it. I do maintain, though, as I've said before, the only Indiana Jones movie being sold used is Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. But there are also episodes of Young Indiana Jones I found on VHS and DVD, so there's that as well. And I can't remember who played him in that series, but there was like one series of that show, Young Indiana Jones Chronicles or whatever it was. So that is out there too.
I watched the first episode, and that's when I remember going, maybe this isn't for me.
Maybe only Harrison Ford should play Indiana Jones. No, I think it was based on the strength of the opening segment for the Last Crusade with River Phoenix. Remember that whole thing with River Phoenix? That was such a great segment, great sequence that they thought they could base a whole TV show on that. And I think it was just, it's not Harrison Ford, so it's not going to work. I think that's probably the reason that didn't work. Yeah. Okay, so now let's get on to the Star Wars Hotel, because that is insane. Galactic Star Cruiser is what it's called. Sorry, I'm going to find the website here. My computer's frozen. But it's very expensive.
That's very expensive.
How much is it?
I can't remember. Like $1,800 a night or something. Like come on.
It's like 5,000. It turns out to be $5,000 or something all in for 2 nights.
Is that including kids or not?
No, it's not including kids. If kids, you add another $500 on or something like that. Like that's for 2 people, and you have to add on for kids. Now I'm going to go to the highlights. This is the it starts next year. Okay, all the COVID warnings. Experience highlights during your Star Wars Galactic Cruise adventure. Your choices determine what happens during your 2-night Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser voyage, including exciting and exclusive activities, missions, character encounters, and adventures that go beyond any ordinary vacation experience. And so there's lots of concept art here for this thing, and it shows what appears to be like in the hotel lobby, for example, there are stormtroopers asking you where you're going and that kind of stuff. Like they're walking around, being like the Empire is. They show like a cantina kind of a situation here where, that's obviously the dining area. It looks a lot like the one that's at Disney World already, that's already there. Be a part of the story. During your voyage, you won't just meet new and familiar Star Wars characters, you'll interact with them in ways you've only imagined. They need your help. You'll assist and even join them on daring missions. Characters you meet one day will lead to amazing new adventures the next day. Explore, play, and discover. How can they guarantee this for every single person in the hotel? Like, I don't understand how this can work. They're going to have to do it in groups, I guess, right?
I don't know how they do it. Hey, did you see HBO's TV show The White Lotus?
No.
Which is it's great, by the way. It's just a great summertime show on HBO, and it's about guests arriving at a hotel.
Oh, okay.
And kind of like, oh boy, I don't want to give anything away, but I'll say there's some conflict there in terms of guests and hotel employees, and I'll leave it at that, and just say I can imagine showing up at this Star Wars themed hotel and all these disgruntled employees dressed like Star Wars characters, kind of roaming around the hallways. Like, I don't know. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you make it work. There's some people who love that stuff, and there's some people who hate it. So can you opt out of, like,
I think you can.
Do I have to wake up with Tarkin standing next to my bed, or can I opt out of it?
No, it looks they've got like a sample of what your day would look like, right? Itinerary or whatever, and so it's got stuff like arrive at terminal, launch pod to Star Cruiser. I guess that means go to your room, ship orientation, light refreshments, sabacc lessons, captain's reception. Dinner featuring live music. Like, this stuff is all included in the price, I imagine. This is why it's $5,000. It's all inclusive. And then it says unexpected story moment. For example, you might prove your mettle to join an elite smuggling ring, hide a stowaway to help the resistance. So it sounds like there's different things you can do, and you can pick which one you want to do. And then maybe the idea is that you would come back again another time and spend another $5,000 and do another adventure. Maybe. I would imagine that's kind of what it would be. Lightsaber training is another thing they have here. Droid racing competition. So there's all these sabacc tournaments, which is, I imagine, just like a poker tournament, but with sabacc. So it does sound like a lot of fun. I certainly wouldn't be able to afford it at this moment, but
it sounds like fun in small doses. I don't think I'd want an entire weekend of structured fun.
Yeah, no, that's part of the problem for me is that there are people who like a very structured vacation, people who don't, and I'm kind of like the person who doesn't like a structured vacation. I like to go and see what's happening and then decide.
Right.
And then this is very, very, like, this shows everything, and maybe this is just an example, and there's different things you can do. But in order for the $5,000, I would feel like, I think to be worth it, I would feel like I would have to participate in everything, and then that might lead to me not really having a ton of fun because I'd be so busy. But I think really what this is meant to appeal to is people who don't care that it costs $5,000.
Well, I think they do care that it costs $5,000. We'll probably at some point get a bunch of influencers going there who get to stay there.
Yeah, that's my goal, is to become big enough on TikTok that I don't have to pay for it.
Right. I want to become so big on TikTok that I'm immune to COVID. How big is that? How many followers do I need?
5 million followers to be immune to COVID.
I got some work to do.
But I have seen a couple of the people I follow on TikTok who talk about like this kind of stuff, mostly Marvel stuff. They talk about the movies and the series. They got a free trip to Disneyland. They got to go see Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings ahead of time and all that other stuff. They got to see the Suicide Squad ahead of time. So yeah, they do offer those things. And you're right, we will see a bunch of influencers going through and staying at the hotel, but it's still not accessible to everyone at that price. It's like flying to space. So it's not that expensive. It's not hundreds of thousands of dollars, but $5,000 puts it out of range for quite a few people, I think.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
I mean, a trip to Disney World is expensive enough. Like I said, I spent like $7,000 all in for my family to go. And
oh my God.
That, like, just think about, that's just normal Disney World. That's not even anything special, right? Like we weren't super budgeted or anything like that, but we also didn't splurge too much either. Like, it's a pretty reasonable budget, I think, for that kind of trip. At some point, I'm sure the price will come down, and that's when I'll look at it. Right?
Well, maybe. I guess we'll see what happens. But I mean, travel still isn't completely back. There's still
there's that as well. I'm certainly not planning to go to the U.S. for anytime soon. Like, we're talking years away. But it's like, I don't think this is. We'll see what happens. And this isn't opening until next year, so we have to watch and see the reaction to it and that kind of stuff. Definitely seems like a cool thing. Like, again, one of the other things is a away mission to Batuu. Away mission to Star Trek. Planet excursion to Batuu, which is the Star Wars land part of Disney World. So basically, I think your park admission is probably also included in that as well, and all of this stuff. So ideally, the idea is that it's all inclusive. It just needs to come down in price. And I think they'd be better off to have like different tiers of that. So I'd still want to stay at the hotel. How much would it cost to stay at the hotel but not do any of that crap? Like, just to stay there. Right, that's what I would be wanting to know, and then maybe you pay for the things on an individual basis and pick and choose what you want to do.
The a la carte system.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. That works.
Yeah. So as I say, we're going to see some influencers probably. Maybe you go there and who aren't afraid of COVID because they have so many followers. We'll get them to go there and to make sure it's safe for the rest of us. But yeah, it is very expensive, and it's too bad. I mean, like, in a perfect world, we'd have a Star Wars hotel in every city.
Yes.
You would have to pay for the travel on top of the hotel, which is also like that. It really starts.
Well, that was the bulk of my expenses was the plane airfare. So yeah, that's absolutely huge cost.
We will continue to monitor those developments.
Yeah, of course we will. We have nothing else to do. What else do we have to talk about today? Is there anything else? Have we talked about everything?
We are going to end on a downer, and that is J.W. Rinsler passed away, the Lucasfilm employee. Pablo tweeted about him. Pablo Hidalgo tweeted about him. A very nice thing, which I'm sure it's still in Pablo's timeline. And J.W. Rinsler wrote. He was a young guy. He wasn't old. He was in his 50s, and he wrote the definitive making of Star Wars books for the classic trilogy and Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I have all of those books. And as a co-host of this podcast, I go back to those books constantly because I remember stuff that I read there. And then when Lucasfilm comes out with some new Star Wars show or property, I think, where have I seen this before? And often the seeds of that stuff were first floated by George Lucas as reported in those books. So so rest in peace to J.W. Rinsler. But if our listeners have not ever looked at or read those Making of Star Wars books, I think most bookstores will have at least one of them in stock, and you could go check it out in the bookstore and decide if you want to buy it. I bought a couple of mine on Amazon, which were very discounted. They were quite inexpensive at this point. So they're out there. Those books are out there floating around, and I highly recommend them.
I'm just looking up to see if it's available at the library.
Oh.
I do not see it. Oh, wait, no. Yeah, there is. Indiana Jones. Oh, yeah, here it is. The Making of Star Wars. Yeah, they're all here at the library.
Good.
So there you go. You can even take them out for free at the library. Oh, not currently available. Never mind. Somebody's got it.
Somebody stole them. Yeah. Any book you want at the library is stolen.
Well, they don't charge late fees anymore. Our library stopped charging late fees, so there's no incentive for people to bring it back. So good luck with that.
Nobody paid those anyway.
Hey, I knew that I had this experience at Blockbuster Video already. I've been through the no late fees thing.
No more late fees.
Did not work out.
Yeah. Yeah, what I remember about that is the big U.S. campaign, no more late fees, and then in Canada they're like, that'll be a $2 late fee, and I was like, what happened to no more late fees? They go, that's only in the U.S. Like, yeah, boy, it really would have broken the bank to also do that in Canada.
No kidding. Hey, one more thing before we go. I just realized I'm back here in the studio, and I haven't been here in more than a year. And I have toys here that I forgot about. I've got this nice little Kylo Ren bobblehead, Funko, which is great. Now that I actually have Funkos at home, I actually might bring this home to be with the rest of my Funkos. Yeah, and I have this little Luke Skywalker guy here. I've got the little, I don't remember where I got this from, a gumball machine or something. And he's also a bobblehead. So there you go. So a couple bobbleheads, Star Wars bobbleheads.
I have the Princess Leia from the same line as your Luke.
Oh, really?
My mom gave it to me. She's like, yeah, I don't need this. This is for, you can have it.
I don't need
where
this.
Did you get it? She has no idea where she got it. But it must have been, they must have been prizes at a restaurant or something. That's all I can think of.
I can't remember. Anyway.
But anyway, they're very cool. They look good.
It's very cool. Yeah, it's kind of like this cool animated style. All right, well, there you go. That's going to do it for this episode. It's great to be back. Great to see you again, Kenton.
Great to be back.
Awesome. That's going to do it for this episode of the Star Wars Nerds. I'm Dan Vadebonker.
I'm Kenton Larson. Don't let the Force hit you on the ass.
Now I am the master.
TK421, you come.